interested in anything else, you're always welcome to sign the book, of course, and we'll be happy to reach out to you. But we are a 17-acre, fully diversified fiber farm. So the reason why I describe it that way is because we are known for breeding and raising llamas. That's the majority of what we have on our farm. But it's a fiber farm so that when people come to our farm, they can learn about where all of your natural fibers come from. So of course we've got sheep. I saw something running out of the corner of my eye and I thought it was an animal. So of course we've got sheep. We have Angora goats, which most people are very unfamiliar with, especially when they're in full fleece. They do tend to look like sheep, but they are where we get mohair from, and we are the only ones on Long Island with them. And we also have Angora rabbits. We have just one with us today. And we also do have an alpaca, because the most common question, people always want to know the difference between a llama and an alpaca. But I thought that you guys would enjoy the babies much more than being able to see a llama or an alpaca. So you can come to our farm if you want to see the visual difference. We do also have 3 other babies on our farm as well. So we had a nice group this year for our breeding season. So I've got plenty of help here with me today to introduce everybody, but just I'm sure if you haven't already found out, the larger baby who's starting to not look so much like a baby anymore, he's 5 months old, so he is still with his mom, he's still nursing. And the other little one who doesn't have a name, he's 2.5 months old. He doesn't care, he has no idea he doesn't have a name. And so we have 2 others that are the same age as him, so they kind of range, so it gives you a good idea of seeing the size difference especially and how quickly they do. So I'm going to take Mumford. I didn't have my Wheaties yet this morning, but we'll get him out of the way. Now they know what the board is, so as you see, people will always ask, like, do they like being shorn? I don't know. And I feel like if they did, then they should just come here, right? And like sit down and put their little legs up and be like, let's go. And that's never really the case. I mean, these are my sheep, so they are a little easier than most people's animals that don't know me otherwise and also are a little more timid. But I don't think they mind it. I think they tolerate it. So Mumford here is, I think, 8. He gets shorn twice a year, so he's had it done plenty of times. When I shear them, I'm going to leave his top knot on. That's his little fro here. We trim it up periodically, but when you shear Cotswold sheep, you usually leave that on as just sort of characteristic of the breed. He is a male, but he is neutered. We call it castrated in the livestock world. So he's called a wether. So we do not breed our sheep. So he's just a good boy. And him and Clover are best buds. I think they know they're the same breed, seriously, because they hang out together versus my other 2 sheep. And she's catching up to him in size, but she's always going to stay that small. She was a triplet, and she was the runt. When we first got her, she was so tiny she could walk underneath him. And we had to make sure he was gentle with her. One time he hit her and she kind of rolled like a tumbleweed, but they eventually got used to each other, and they're good friends now. Are you ready, mister? All right, now when I go to get them in their shearing stance, as I mentioned, they're not dogs. They're not trained to sit. I wish they were. So I do have to kind of do a little bit of like a wrestling move to get him in position. I know somebody's going to gasp, so I'm just giving you a heads up about it. And then we'll kind of go from there. Let me get our hoof trimmers. I'm guessing she had one, but it got ripped. You ready, mister? He's like, are you ready? Now, the whole idea about the board, even though with him half the time I fall off of it because he's so big, that's just to help keep the fleece clean. So that way I'm not rolling him around in the leaves and the grass, because we do want to be able to use his beautiful curls. Now he already knows what I'm doing, so you can see him bracing himself, which of course doesn't help my cause at all. So I'm putting my hand in his mouth. I feel like I'm like a circus act here. There are no teeth there, so he's not biting on me. They do have teeth in the front, but they actually only have lower incisors. So like right now, my hands are on his teeth and he's just gumming me. It doesn't hurt. If your hand goes too far back, there are teeth and that hurts a lot. So we keep it up front as a handle so that I can guide him. Come here. He knows what I'm doing, so I got to do it faster just because I got to catch him off guard. So So basically I have to knock him off balance, and once he is aware of what I'm doing, he'll fight me. So does this answer your question if they like shearing?
Yeah.
Come on, buddy. I'm just gonna wait for him to relax a second. Relax. There we go. Oh. See, I told you guys were gonna gasp. And believe me, like I said, it's me doing the work. He's easily over 200 pounds.
Oh, wow.
What'd you think he was, 50? That's what I said. Doing him, he's always a good boy, but he's big. All right. Yes, I have to work out to be able to do this. Now he's gonna gasp, like as if this is so difficult. I can already hear him already. Maybe if somebody didn't have a big belly, it wouldn't be so difficult. Okay, so this is the position he's gonna be in. One of the things I usually like to do first is I just kind of go around, give him a little bit of a manicure, pedicure, just while I've got him here. So they have what's called a cloven hoof. It's a split hoof as opposed to a horse, which has a solid walled hoof. And also goats have the same hoof, same as pigs, same as cows. So this is just like trimming your nails. It doesn't hurt him. They do have a quick, so yes, there is blood vessels or vascularity in it. So I know a lot of people are always afraid to clip your own dog's nails because you don't want to hit that quick. So it is a little bit about knowing what you're doing. But at the same time, if I took off a little more than I want and we hit the quick, I always tell people it's really far from his heart, so he's not going to bleed to death. Keep Clover up here. That way she'll call for him less.
Oh, that's what she was doing.
All right, so we're doing this. Now this I usually do a couple times a year. Back here, these are called dew claws. So they really are pretty non-functional, but they're still there and they still grow. So you want to keep those trimmed as well. If you ever need a really good hamstring workout, this would be it if you want to take up shearing as a hobby. So I should say, which I forgot to mention, I do this professionally. So fall is a quieter time for me because my expertise is mostly with the llamas and I do travel for that. But I do shear about 1,000 animals a season, and my prime season is spring. So mostly a little bit in March. There you go, see I just did that. So a little bit in March. Now this is one of those things, like I said earlier, that's gonna bleed and it's gonna look like he's dying, and I swear he's not. It's just one of those things. Stop. So, as my shearing season usually starts in April, it'll go into like July, and I travel from Vermont to Georgia. So mostly again doing llamas, and then probably about 600, 700, 800 llamas, and about, I don't know, maybe 300, 400 sheep, right? And then a couple of goats thrown in. So, and again, I do apologize about that, guys. Like I said, what it is too is because his heart's pumping, and that'll bleed. As soon as I put him in the dirt, it'll stop. You're a good boy. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Now, I do know he's a boy. I do have to look out for all those kinds of parts. Sometimes when I shear people's animals, believe it or not, I have to double check and not take their word for what gender I'm shearing. So he also, even though he's a boy, he does have teats, and of course, even though he doesn't use them, I'm sure he still wants them. So we have to make sure he doesn't lose those either. So this area I'm always very, very careful about, and then we kind of get rolling after that. Ready? All right. So I'm gonna stop for a second only because I can. If I was sharing somebody else's animal, I probably wouldn't. But what I'm gonna do is just kick out anything that's on his belly, anything that's on his legs. So this is all wool that we're not gonna have included in the rest of the fleece. Now when I'm done, I'm still gonna have to do something called skirting, but at least to make my job a little easier, I can get some of this out of the way. You can also, just from looking, you can see how different this fleece is here compared to the rest of his body. So this is called britch wool. That's also gonna end up as garbage as well. I always say, as long as you promise not to bite, spit, or kick. Can you promise that?
Oh, absolutely. I'll be going, ah.
Let me get him up so you guys can see him. There.
Wow.
Come on, buddy.
You're out to go out.
No. Come here, buddy. So I'll definitely encourage anybody that wants to come on up and touch him so you can see. One of the things about Cotswolds is they have a lot of what we call luster or shine. Also, you can really get a feel for the lanolin. Now, unfortunately, I didn't bring any of my products with me today, but we actually utilize the lanolin and we have a skincare line. So lanolin for them is what makes them waterproof. So it's a natural oil or grease that's secreted from their skin into the wool. So when we wash the wool in order to be able to create yarn, it ends up becoming a byproduct that gets washed out. So that's all, when you touch him, you can see that on my hands there. That's all that lanolin. On a nicer day like this, it's a lot easier to shear them as opposed to when it's cold, because the lanolin is a grease. So that grease solidifies with the colder temperatures. But if anybody wants to come on up, you can come up and pet them.